Lisa stood on the cracked surface of a dead moon, her boots sinking slightly into gray dust that had not stirred in centuries. Around her, the silence was absolute. No wind, no birds, not even the hum of distant machinery. Only the slow pulse of her own breath inside her helmet. She adjusted the strap of her pack, feeling the weight of what she carried. Not weapons, not shields, but seeds, medical kits, and data chips filled with human knowledge. She was alone, not by choice, but by necessity. Earth had fallen. Its cities were ash, its oceans poisoned, its people scattered or gone. Yet Lisa remained, not as a soldier, but as a messenger, a last hope. Above her, the sky darkened as a massive shape blotted out the stars. The Eclipse, the flagship of Empress Vela, ruler of the Krell Empire, descended without sound, its obsidian hull swallowing the light. Lisa did not flinch. She had seen the Krell warships before, tearing through human defenses like paper. She had watched them burn her home from orbit, silent and efficient. But today was different. Today she was not running. Today she was walking toward them. A beam of violet light shot down from the ship, forming a shimmering staircase. Lisa took a deep breath and climbed. Each step felt heavier than the last. Not from gravity, but from the weight of what she was about to do. She had no army behind her. No backup, only words. And hope. Thin as spider silk, but unbroken. Inside the Eclipse, the air was cold and smelled of ozone and metal. Krell warriors lined the corridor, tall and armored, their silver skin gleaming under harsh lights, their eyes glowing faintly violet. They carried energy blades at their hips and moved with the grace of predators. They watched her pass, their expressions unreadable. Lisa kept her gaze forward, her hands loose at her sides. She would not show fear. Not here. Not now. At the end of the hall, on a floating platform of black stone, sat Empress Vela. She was taller than any human, her form elegant and sharp like a blade given life. Her hair flowed like liquid mercury. Her eyes burned with ancient intelligence, and her presence filled the chamber like a storm. She did not speak as Lisa approached. She simply watched as one might watch an insect crawl across a table. "You are the last one," Vela said finally, her voice smooth and cold, like ice sliding over steel. Lisa stopped 10 paces away. Why did you come to talk?" The Empress tilted her head slightly. "Your species begged. Your species fought. Your species died. Why should I listen to you? Because I am not begging," Lisa said, "and I am not fighting. I am offering what a future." Vela laughed, a short, sharp sound that echoed off the walls. "The Krell do not need futures. We shaped them. You shaped ours into dust," Lisa said quietly. "But you did not finish the job. Earth still has soil, still has water, still has people who remember how to grow things, how to heal, how to build. You took our weapons, but you left our hands." The Empress studied her. "You speak boldly for a creature who should be extinct." "Boldness is all I have left." For a long moment, Vela said nothing. Then she rose from her throne, her movements fluid and deliberate. She stepped down onto the floor, closing the distance between them until they stood face to face. Lisa did not look away. She met the Empress's violet eyes with her own brown ones, steady and calm. "What do you want?" "Humani want you to stop seeing us as enemies," Lisa said. "We are not your threat. We never were. Your real enemy is the emptiness inside your own empire." Vela's expression hardened. "Do not presume to know my empire. I lived in your shadow for 10 years, Lisa said. I walked your fringe worlds. I saw your children eating bark because the ration lines ran dry. I saw your factories crumbling because no one knew how to fix them. You conquered everything, but you forgot how to care for what you won." The Empress's claws twitched at her sides. Silence stretched between them, thick and tense. Then slowly, Vela turned and walked back to her throne. She sat, her posture regal, but something in her eyes had changed. Doubt, perhaps, or the first crack in a wall that had stood for centuries. "Prove it," she said. Lisa reached into her pack and pulled out a small pouch. She opened it and poured its contents into her palm. Dry beans, wrinkled but whole. She held them out. "These grew in soil soaked with acid rain on Earth. They survived. They fed families. Your people can grow them too, in domes, in tunnels, even in ship corridors. Food does not need permission to grow. It only needs a chance." Vela stared at the beans as if they were alien artifacts. Then she gestured to a guard. "Bring the soil sample from Sector 9. The guard returned moments later with a sealed container. Vela opened it and poured a handful of gray, lifeless dust onto the floor. "Plant them," she said. Lisa knelt, ignoring the stares of the warriors. She made a small hole in the dust with her fingers. placed 2 beans inside, covered them gently, and poured a few drops of water from her canteen. Then she sat back on her heels and waited. Nothing happened. Vela's lips curled. "You waste my time." "Give it time," Lisa said. Hours passed. The chamber remained silent. The Krell did not sleep, but they grew restless. Still, Lisa sat unmoving, watching the patch of dust. Then, just as the ship's internal lights dimmed for the night cycle, a tiny green shoot pushed through the surface. Thin, fragile, but undeniably alive. A murmur ran through the guards. Vela leaned forward, her eyes wide. "It is just a plant," the Empress whispered. "It is life," Lisa said, "and life always finds a way. Even in your empire." Vela stood again. Slower this time. She walked to the sprout and knelt beside Lisa. For the first time, she looked not like a conqueror, but like someone who had forgotten what hope looked. "Like you say, you offer a future," Lisa said softly. "What if that future includes your people eating again, your children laughing, your cities breathing?" The Empress did not answer right away. When she spoke, her voice was quieter, stripped of its usual command. "Why help us? You should hate us." "I did hate you," Lisa admitted, "for a long time. But hatred does not rebuild homes. It only burns them again. I choose to build." Vela looked at her then. Not at her species, not at her uniform, but at her. Really looked. And in that gaze, something shifted. Not surrender. Not defeat, but recognition. This human was not weak. She was strong in a way the Krell had never valued. Strong enough to offer kindness after cruelty. "Stay," Vela said. Lisa blinked. "What, stay here?" "On the eclipse." "Teach us." Lisa hesitated. She had expected threats, imprisonment, maybe execution. Not this. But she saw the truth in the Empress's eyes. This was not a trick. It was a beginning. "Okay," she said. That night, Lisa was given quarters not in a cell, but in a chamber near the Imperial wing. It was sparse but clean, with a window that looked out into the starfield. She sat on the edge of the bed, exhausted but awake. Outside, the eclipse drifted through the void, carrying not just weapons, but now a single green shoot, and the fragile seed of something new far below. On the dead moon, the wind finally stirred, lifting a little dust into the air. Somewhere deep in the ruins of a human outpost, a radio crackled to life with a faint repeating signal. "We are still here." Days turned into weeks aboard the Eclipse, and Lisa settled into a rhythm that felt both strange and necessary. She woke before the ship's artificial dawn cycle, washed in the cool mist chamber provided for her, and ate simple rations, nutrient, paced at first until she convinced the Krell cooks to try human recipes using stored grains and the first sprouts grown from her seeds. The Krell found bread baffling. They had no concept of yeast or rising dough. But when Lisa pulled a warm loaf from a repurposed engine heat vent, the scent filled the galley and drew curious warriors from 3 decks away. They ate in silence, then asked for more. Vela watched from the shadows. She did not join the meals, not yet, but she observed everything. She saw how Lisa spoke to the lowest-ranked techs with the same respect she gave the ship's commanders. She saw how she fixed a broken water recycler, with wire and tape, humming an old Earth tune while she worked. She saw how children, Krell younglings rarely seen on warships, began to follow Lisa through the corridors, drawn by her calm presence and the small gifts she carried. Carved sticks, woven cords, stories told in slow, clear words. One evening, Vela appeared at Lisa's workshop, a converted storage bay filled with salvaged parts, soil trays, and hand-drawn diagrams pinned to the walls. "You teach them too much," she said. Lisa looked up from grafting a fruit vine onto a hardy rootstock. "They are smart. They learn fast. They are warriors, not farmers. They can be both." Lisa said gently, "You cannot fight forever. Even your empire needs to eat." Vela stepped inside, her claws clicking softly against the metal floor. "You speak as if you know my people. Do not know them all," Lisa said, "but I know hunger. And I know pride. Your people have both. But pride will not fill a child's belly." The Empress was silent for a long moment. Then she gestured to a small pot on the shelf. "What is that?" "Strawberries," Lisa said. "They are small red fruits. Sweet. Earth children love them. Do they grow here? Not yet. But maybe soon. If we keep trying." Vela reached out, hesitated, then touched a leaf. It was soft, green, alive. Something she had not touched in decades. something that grew not for war, not for power, but simply because it could. A strange feeling rose in her chest, unfamiliar and warm. "You are changing my ship, Lisa. I am helping it breathe." That night, Vela ordered the conversion of an entire cargo bay into a hydroponic garden. Engineers grumbled, warriors protested, but the Empress's word was law. Lisa worked alongside them, showing them how to layer soil, how to collect condensation, how to pollinate flowers by hand. Slowly, green returned to the eclipse. Vines climbed support beams, herbs filled the air with scent, and the first tomatoes ripened under artificial suns. News spread faster than Vela expected. Other Krell ships began sending requests, seeds, instructions, even personnel to train under the human. At first, she refused. This was her secret, her fragile experiment. But Lisa urged her to share. Hoarding knowledge is how empires die. She said, "If you want to live, you must give," so Vela relented. Data packets containing Lisa's farming guides, medical notes, and water purification methods were broadcast across the fleet. On a dozen warships, Krell engineers tore out weapon bays to make room for greenhouses. On colony outposts, elders wept as they tasted fresh greens for the first time in generations. But not everyone welcomed the change. Admiral Korv, commander of the 3rd Strike Wing, arrived unannounced on the Eclipse. He was old, scarred, and loyal only to the old ways. He found Vela in the garden watching Lisa tie up beanstalks. "This is madness," he growled. "You let a human soften our core. We are Krell. We conquer. We do not plant beans." Vela turned, her eyes cold. "We also survive. Something your tactics forgot. When your last fleet starved mid-campaign, Korv's face darkened. She is poisoning you with weakness." Lisa straightened but said nothing. She knew this moment would come. Fear always fights change. Vela stepped between them. "The human stays, and you will respect her." Korv bared his fangs. "Or what, Empress, will you? Have your pet human heal me after I challenge you?" Before Vela could respond, Lisa spoke. "No one needs to fight." Silence fell. Korv laughed. "Of course, the soft one speaks of peace. I speak of sense." Lisa said, "You think farming is weakness, but your own warriors are weaker than they were a year ago. Your medics report rising illness. Your young fail strength trials. Why? Because your food is recycled sludge and your air is stale. I am not giving you weakness. I am giving you strength." That last, Korv stared at her, stunned that a human would address him directly. Then he snarled and lunged, not at Lisa, but at a tray of seedlings, crushing them under his boot. "There is your strength." Earthworm Lisa did not flinch. She knelt, gathered the ruined plants, and stood. "You can destroy what I grow, but you cannot destroy the knowledge, and you cannot stop your own people from wanting to live." Vela's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Leave." Admiral Korv hesitated. Then with a final glare, he turned and stalked away. After he left, Vela looked at Lisa. "You did not call for guards." "I knew you would protect me," Lisa said. "But more than that, I knew he needed to hear the truth. Even if he hates it, you are either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both." Lisa smiled slightly. That night, Vela invited Lisa to dine in her private chamber. A first. The table held not nutrient paste, but roasted tubers, leafy greens, and a small bowl of berries. Real food, grown by Krell hands. "You have done more in weeks than my advisors did in decades," Vela said. "I had nothing to lose." Lisa replied, "You had everything to gain." They ate in comfortable silence. Then Vela asked a question that surprised them both. "What was your home like?" Lisa's eyes softened. "It was green. Lots of trees, rivers that ran clear in the spring. My mother grew tomatoes on our roof. We ate them warm from the vine, with salt. Simple things, but they mattered." Vela looked down at her own plate. "I have never eaten something warm from the earth." "You will," Lisa said, "someday soon." Weeks became months. The garden thrived. So did the bond between Empress and human. They walked the ship together, discussed policy, debated philosophy. Vela learned about human music, and Lisa learned the Krell morning chants for fallen warriors. They were different, yes, but not enemies. Not anymore. Then came the distress call. It crackled over the comms late one cycle. A civilian transport, the Starlight Wanderer, carrying 300 Krell refugees from a failed mining colony. It was adrift near the ash belt, engines dead, life support failing. Korv's fleet was closest, but he refused to divert. Too risky, he said. Let the weak perish. Vela ordered the Eclipse to change course immediately. Lisa joined her on the bridge. We can save them, Lisa said, but we will need supplies. Food, medicine, clean water. We have them now, Vela replied. Thanks to you. The rescue was swift. The Wanderer was dark and cold when they docked. Inside, families huddled together, thin and pale, but alive. When they saw the Eclipse crew carrying baskets of fresh food, some wept. A child reached for a berry in Lisa's hand and ate it with wide eyes. You grew this? The child whispered. Yes, Lisa said. And you can too. Vela watched from the doorway, her heart heavy and full. This was not conquest. This was something better. Later, back on the Eclipse, Korv confronted her again. You waste resources on failures. They are not failures. Vela said they are Krell. And we do not abandon our own since I learned that an empire is not measured by how many it destroys, but by how many it saves. Korv's eyes narrowed. You have changed. Vela said I have. The Admiral bowed stiffly and left. But his look promised trouble. Days later, rebellion stirred. Korv and his loyalists seized control of 3 support vessels, cutting off supply lines to the main fleet. They declared Vela weak, corrupted by human sentiment. They demanded she hand over Lisa or face civil war. Vela stood on the command deck, her face like stone. Lisa stood beside her. You should hide, Lisa said. No, Vela replied, you taught me that. Hiding solves nothing. What will you do? What a true leader does, she said, I will face them. But they have ships, weapons, and we have something they do not. Vela turned to Lisa. You showed me that strength is not only in blades, but in unity, in care, in life. She opened a fleet-wide channel. All Krell ships hear this. Admiral Korv spreads fear because he fears change. But I say this. Any ship that joins him chooses death over life. Any ship that stays with me chooses to grow, to heal, to live. The choice is yours. Silence followed. Then, one by one, ships across the fleet signaled their loyalty to Vela. Even some of Korv's own captains defected, their crews refusing to fight against the gardens, the food, the hope Lisa had brought. Korv's rebellion collapsed within hours. Afterward, Vela found Lisa in the garden, tending to a new batch of seedlings. You saved my empire, Lisano. Lisa said, you saved it? I just reminded you how. Vela knelt beside her. Stay with me. Not as a guest, not as an advisor. As Lisa looked at her, really looked, she saw not just an empress, but a woman who had chosen mercy over might, life over legacy. She saw the future they could build together. Yes, she said, and in that quiet garden under the hum of starship lights, 2 worlds truly began to heal. The bond between Lisa and Vela deepened like roots in good soil, slow and sure. They no longer walked the halls of the Eclipse as empress and human, but as partners. Vela began wearing simple robes instead of battle armor, her silver skin catching the soft light of the garden rather than the harsh glare of war rooms. Lisa, in turn, learned the Krell ways of honor, of silent strength, of listening more than speaking. They balanced each other, fire and water, steel and seed. News of their union spread across the empire not as a political alliance, but as a quiet revolution. On 100 worlds, Krell families planted their first gardens. Schools taught not only combat drills but crop rotation and basic medicine. Old songs were rewritten to include words like harvest, heal, and home. The empire was changing not with a bang but with a breath. Yet peace is never without its shadows. Deep in the outer rim, beyond the reach of Vela's reformed fleets, a new threat stirred. The Jar, a species long thought extinct, had survived in the void, feeding on wreckage and rage. They were not like the Krell. They did not conquer. They consumed. Planets, ships, people. Nothing was spared. They left only silence and bones. The first warning came from a scout vessel near the dead star of Zenthar. Its final transmission showed twisted metal, black vines crawling over hulls, and a sound like screaming wind, then static. Vela received the report in her chamber, Lisa at her side. "The Jar myth," Lisa said. "Myths do not destroy scout ships," Vela replied. They studied the data. The Jar used no known weapons, no energy signatures, just decay, as if they carried entropy itself in their veins. Worse, they seemed drawn to life, not to kill it quickly, but to drain it slowly, turning green worlds gray. "We cannot fight what we do not understand," Lisa said. "Then we must understand," Vela decided. They prepared the Eclipse for a journey into the unknown. This time, Lisa did not go as a guest or a teacher. She went as Vela's equal, her voice carrying weight in every council. They took scientists, medics, engineers, and seeds. Always seeds, because even in darkness, life must be ready to return. The voyage took weeks. The farther they traveled, the quieter space became. No comms, no signals, not even cosmic background noise. Just emptiness. Then they found the first dead world. It hung in orbit like a skull, cracked, dry, its atmosphere gone. Scans showed no radiation, no toxins, just absence, as if every living thing had simply stopped. Lisa stood on the observation deck, her hands on the cool glass. "This is not war," she whispered. "This is hunger." Vela joined her. "Can your knowledge help here?" "I do not know," Lisa admitted. "But I will try." They sent a small team to the surface, sealed in full environmental suits. Lisa led them. Beneath the dust, they found ruins, not of cities, but of farms. Orchards with petrified trees. Irrigation channels filled with sand. This world had been alive once, peaceful, and the Jar had taken that peace and turned it to dust. In the center of a dried lake bed, they found a structure, a stone circle, covered in strange glyphs. Lisa knelt, brushing away dust. "These are not warnings," she said, "they are prayers." For what? For balance back on the Eclipse, linguists worked to decode the glyphs. The message was clear: the Jar were not invaders. They were a consequence, born from a species that had taken too much, destroyed too freely, and broken the natural cycle. The universe had answered with a force that restored balance, by removing life entirely. Vela read the translation and grew still. "We did the same," she said. "We burned worlds for fuel, drained oceans for minerals, laughed at those who warned us." Lisa placed a hand on her arm. "But you stopped. You changed. Will it be enough? Only if we prove it." They pressed on, following faint energy traces deeper into the void. Finally, they found the Jar hive. Not a ship, but a living asteroid pulsing with dark veins. It drifted near a dying star, feeding on its last light. Vela wanted to attack. Her warriors readied weapons. But Lisa stopped her. "Violence made them. Violence will not unmake them. Then what do we do to offer balance?" Lisa proposed a plan so bold it stunned the War Council. They would not fire a single shot. Instead, they would send a shuttle, not armed but filled with life. Soil, water, seeds, even small animals in stasis. A gift. A beginning. "You are mad," Vela said. "Maybe," Lisa replied, "but madness built your empire. Maybe sanity can save it." After a long silence, Vela nodded. "Do it." The shuttle launched, drifting slowly toward the hive. Tension filled the Eclipse bridge. Minutes passed. Then hours. Just as hope began to fade, the hive reacted, not with attack but with stillness. The dark veins slowed. The pulsing dimmed. Then from the surface of the asteroid, a single green tendril emerged. Thin, searching, alive. It touched the shuttle. Absorbed the soil. Tasted the water. And for the first time in centuries, the Jar did not consume. They accepted. On the bridge, Vela let out a breath she did not know she was holding. "You did it." "No," Lisa said, "we did it. You chose peace when your instincts screamed war. That is what changed everything." The Jar did not vanish, but they changed. They began to drift away from inhabited systems toward dead worlds, and where they went slowly, life returned. Not the old life, but something new, adapted, resilient. The universe had found its balance again. On the journey home, Vela held Lisa's hand as they watched stars blur past. "You gave them hope," she said. "I gave them a chance." Lisa corrected, "just like you gave me one." When they returned to the core worlds, they were greeted not with fanfare, but with quiet gratitude. Farmers bowed. Children waved green leaves. Elders spoke Lisa's name like a blessing. She had not sought glory, but she had earned something deeper. Trust. Vela called a grand assembly of all Krell houses. Before thousands, she stood with Lisa at her side and declared a new era, the age of growth. No more conquest. No more waste. Only stewardship. Only care. Some resisted. Old warlords muttered in corners. But the people had tasted bread, seen their children strong, felt the sun on real grass. They would not go back. In the months that followed, Lisa and Vela traveled from world to world, not as rulers but as gardeners. They planted orchards on ash plains, built clinics in war ruins, taught children to read and to sow seeds in the same lesson. Their love was not shouted, it was lived in every healed wound, every shared meal, every sunrise over a green field. One evening on a newly restored world called Alara, they stood on a hill overlooking a valley filled with blooming crops. The air smelled of rain and earth. A Krell child ran up to Lisa holding a ripe red fruit. "For you," the child said. Lisa took it and smiled. "Thank you," Vela watched her, her violet eyes soft. "You never wanted this, did you? Wanted what? To be loved by an empire." Lisa looked at the valley, at the people working together, at the stars beginning to appear in the twilight. "I just wanted someone to listen, and now they don't know they do." They stood in silence as night fell. Somewhere below, a flute played a human tune mixed with Krell harmonies. It was not perfect, but it was theirs. Years later, historians would call this time the Great Turning, but those who lived it knew better. It was not a single moment. It was 1,000 small choices, choosing to plant instead of burn, to share instead of hoard, to listen instead of command. And at the heart of it all stood a human woman and an alien empress who proved that even the hardest hearts can learn to grow. Lisa never forgot Earth, but she no longer mourned it as a grave. She honored it as a seed, and from that seed a new future had taken root, strong, green, and endless. Vela once asked her if she missed her old life. Lisa had answered simply, "I did not have a life before this, only survival. Now I live, and so they did, together under open skies in a universe that had learned at last how to heal." Peace settled over the Krell Empire like morning mist over a field of young wheat. Cities once built for war now hummed with markets, schools, and communal gardens. Children played in parks where cannons once stood. The eclipse no longer led fleets into battle, but carried teachers, healers, and seeds to worlds still learning how to live again. Lisa and Vela moved through this new world not as rulers demanding obedience, but as guides offering hands. Yet even in calm waters, ripples appear. It began with whispers from the far edge of known space. A signal, faint but steady, repeating a pattern no one recognized. Not Krell, not Jar, not human. Something older. Something watching. Vela received the data in her study, a room now lined with living vines and shelves of hand-bound books instead of war maps. She played the signal. It was not sound but light, pulses of color shifting in a rhythm that felt almost like breathing. Lisa leaned over her shoulder. "It is not a threat. How can you be sure? Because it waits," she said. "It does not attack. It does not demand. It just..." His curiosity stirred in Vela, a feeling she had almost forgotten. For centuries she had seen the unknown as danger. Now she saw it as possibility. They prepared a small expedition, just the eclipse, stripped of weapons, filled with scholars and open comms. Lisa insisted they bring no shields, no hidden blades. If this was a test, they would meet it with honesty. The journey took them beyond the last mapped star, into a region the old Krell called the Veil, a place where space itself seemed thin, like worn fabric. There, floating in perfect stillness, hung a structure, not a ship, not a station. A sphere of crystal, smooth and seamless, glowing with soft inner light. As the eclipse approached, the sphere opened, not with doors or hatches, but by simply parting like petals. Inside there was no gravity, no walls, only a garden. Trees with silver leaves, flowers that hummed, and a pool of water so clear it reflected not faces but memories. A figure stood by the pool, tall, slender, skin like polished stone, eyes deep as galaxies. It did not speak with sound. Words formed in their minds instead. "You have changed," the Empress. Vela tensed. "Who are you?" "We are the keepers," she replied. "We watch. We remember. We do not interfere." "Then why show yourself now?" "Because you stopped taking and began giving." She said, "No empire in 10,000 cycles has done that." "You broke the pattern." Lisa stepped forward. "Was the pattern wrong?" The keeper tilted her head. "Patterns are not right or wrong. They are cycles. Conquer, collapse, repeat. You chose a new path. That makes you rare. And fragile." Fragile. Vela bristled. All new things are fragile. The keeper said a seed is fragile, a promise is fragile, but without them, nothing grows. She led them through the garden. Each step revealed visions, past empires rising and falling, species burning bright then vanishing, worlds turning to dust. Then a new thread appeared in the vision. Krell children planting trees, humans and Krell sharing meals, Jar tending dead soil back to life. Their story woven into the great tapestry. You are not alone, the keeper said. Others have tried. Most failed. Fear is loud. Hope is quiet. But you listen to the quiet. Why tell us this, Lisa asked, because the next test comes not from outside but from within. She said peace is harder to keep than war. Doubt will rise. Old wounds will ache. Your people will forget why they changed. Vela looked at Lisa. We will remind them. You must do more than remind, the keeper said. You must live it. Every day. In every choice before they left, the keeper gave them a gift. A single seed, black as night, warm to the touch. Plant it where your hearts are true, she said. It will show you what you need to see back on the eclipse. Lisa held the seed in her palm. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. They returned to the heart of the empire not with warnings but with wonder. Vela called no grand assembly. Instead, she and Lisa walked among the people, listening more than speaking. They visited farms, clinics, schools. They ate at common tables. They held the hands of elders and played with children. They lived the peace they had built. But the keeper's words proved true. Doubt came first in small ways. A farmer complained that sharing crops with weaker colonies made his own stores thin. A teacher questioned why Krell children learned human songs. A veteran muttered that the empire felt soft, slow, weak. Then came the fire. It started in the capital city, a blaze in the central granary, destroying weeks of harvest. Rumors spread fast. Some said it was an accident. Others whispered sabotage. Old factions, those who missed the days of glory through conquest, began to gather in shadows. Vela wanted to hunt the culprits. Lisa stopped her. Punishment will feed their fear. Show them why we protect what we grow so they did not punish. They rebuilt. Together. Vela and Lisa worked side by side with citizens, hauling stone, mixing mortar, planting new seeds in the ashes. They did not speak of blame. They spoke of tomorrow. Still tension grew. Then a message arrived from Admiral Korv, now exiled to a remote mining outpost. He had not spoken in years. His words were simple: come alone, Empress, or the past returns. Vela knew it was a trap, but she also knew ignoring it would let fear win. I will go, Lisa said. Novela replied, this is my burden. It is ours. She said. They took a small shuttle. No guards, no weapons. Korv waited on a barren plateau, his face lined with bitterness and age. Behind him stood a dozen loyalists, armed but uneasy. You brought the human, Korv sneered. I brought my heart. Vela said. He laughed, but it held no joy. Your heart is why we are weak? We were stars. Now we are dirt farmers. Dirt feeds stars, Lisa said quietly. Korv turned on her. You think your kindness makes you strong? It makes you pray. No, Lisa said. Strength is choosing not to hurt when you can. That is harder than striking. For a long moment. Korv said nothing. Then he gestured to a crate at his feet. Open it, Vela did. Inside lay an old Krell war banner, torn and stained. Beneath it a data chip. Play it, she did. The screen showed footage from the early war. Krell ships bombing human cities, civilians running, children crying. Then a young Vela, cold-eyed, giving the order to glass the planet. This is who you were. Korv said, this is who we are. Vela's hands trembled, but she did not look away. I was wrong, the word hung in the air. No Krell leader had ever admitted wrongness. The loyalists shifted, uncertain. Lisa stepped forward. We all were wrong. Humans, too. We poisoned our world. We fought each other over scraps. We deserved to fall, but we chose to rise differently. So did she. Korv's eyes flickered. Why? Because pain taught us, Vela said softly. And I would rather my people learn from my shame than repeat it. Silence stretched. Then slowly Korv knelt, not in surrender but in respect. He placed his blade on the ground. I do not understand your peace, he said, but I will not break it. That night, back on the eclipse, Lisa and Vela planted the keeper's seed in the heart of the main garden. It sprouted by dawn. Not a tree, not a flower, but a mirror. Its surface showed not their faces, but their choices. Vela sparing a rebel, Lisa sharing her last ration, children of different species holding hands. The mirror did not judge. It remembered. Years passed. The empire did not become perfect. There were still arguments, setbacks, moments of fear, but each time Lisa and Vela stood together, not as symbols but as examples. They aged side by side, their hair silvering, their steps slowing, but their purpose never fading. When Vela's time came, she did not die on a throne but in the garden, Lisa's hand in hers. Her last words were simple: "Thank you for showing me how to live." Lisa lived many years more, teaching, guiding, always planting seeds, literal and otherwise. When she finally passed, they buried her beneath the mirror tree, its branches now wide and strong, its leaves shimmering with memory. Long after, travelers came from distant stars to see the garden where an empress and a human changed the universe, not with fire, but with faith. They would sit beneath the tree, touch its bark, and feel a quiet truth: that the strongest empires are not built on power, but on care. And that even the coldest heart can learn to bloom if someone is willing to wait for the first green shoot. Long after Lisa and Vela were gone, their story lived not in statues or songs, but in the soil. The mirror tree in the heart of the capital garden grew taller each year, its silver leaves shimmering with quiet light, its roots spreading deep into the earth they had healed. Children played beneath its branches, not knowing they walked on sacred ground, only that the air felt calm there, and the fruit it bore, small, golden, and sweet, always tasted like hope. But time moves on, and even peace must face new tests. A century passed. The Krell Empire had become something else now, a union of many species bound not by conquest but by choice. Humans, Jar, Krell, and others lived side by side, sharing knowledge, food, and dreams. The Eclipse still flew, though its weapons were long gone, replaced by labs and libraries. It was now a school, drifting between worlds, teaching the old lessons: how to grow, how to heal, how to listen. Then came the silence. It started with the outer colonies. Comms went dark. Not from attack, not from disaster, but from stillness. Ships arrived to find cities empty, gardens overgrown, tools left mid-task, as if everyone had simply walked away at once. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just absence. The council grew uneasy. Old fears stirred. Some whispered the Jar had returned. Others blamed hidden human weapons. A few even claimed the mirror tree's magic had failed. But a young Krell scholar named Nora, named after the human word for light, saw something others missed. She had spent her life studying Lisa's journals, Vela's decrees, the quiet wisdom of the early peace. She noticed the vanished colonies all shared one thing: they had stopped planting, not out of neglect but out of pride. They had grown so efficient, so advanced, that they relied on machines to feed them, on synthetics to clothe them, on data to teach them. They forgot to touch the soil, forgot to watch a seed push through dirt, forgot that life requires tending, not just technology. Nora brought her findings to the council. They laughed. "You blame laziness for mass disappearance. I blame forgetting," she replied. Vela's great-granddaughter, Empress Celine, listened. She was young, her silver skin still bright, her eyes holding the same violet fire as her ancestor, but tempered with patience. She remembered the mirror tree. She remembered the stories. "Take the eclipse, Nora," she said. "Find the truth." Nora gathered a small crew. Not warriors, but farmers, botanists, and a single old Jar elder who remembered the days of hunger. They loaded the ship not with weapons, but with seeds, shovels, and Lisa's original soil kits. Their first stop was the colony of Viridia, once the greenest world in the Union. They landed in an empty plaza. Vines climbed silent buildings. Fruit rotted on the ground. In the central square stood a statue of Lisa, half covered in moss. Nora knelt and dug her hands into the earth. It was dry, lifeless, sterile. "They are not gone," she said. "They are sleeping. How they forgot to care, so the world forgot them, with the crew's help." Nora began to work. They cleared the overgrowth. They dug new beds. They planted seeds, wheat, beans, strawberries, the same kinds Lisa had carried centuries ago. They watered by hand. They sang old planting songs. They worked with their bodies, not machines. On the third night, as Nora sat by a small fire, a figure emerged from the shadows. Then another. And another. The colonists, pale, thin, eyes hollow, had not vanished. They had withdrawn, lost in a numb fog of disconnection. They watched the strangers work the earth as if seeing it for the first time. "Why do you do this?" one asked. Because the Earth remembers even when we forget. Nora said, "Will you help?" The colonist hesitated, then knelt beside her. His hands trembled as he touched the soil. Tears fell into the dirt, word spread. On every silent world, Nora's team did the same. They planted, they waited, they invited, and slowly the people returned, not to machines, but to meaning, to the rhythm of seasons, to the joy of shared labor, to the simple act of growing something together. Back on the capital world, Celine watched the reports with quiet pride, but she knew the deeper sickness remained. The Union had grown comfortable. Too comfortable. They trusted systems, not each other. They honored Lisa and Vela as legends, but ignored their daily practice. So Celine made a choice. She ordered the mirror tree's seeds to be harvested and sent to every world in the Union, not as relics, but as tools. Each community was asked to plant one, care for it, and gather beneath it once a cycle to share stories, food, and problems. Not through comms, but face to face. Many resisted. It seemed old-fashioned, inefficient, but Celine held firm. Efficiency without connection is emptiness, she said. Nora returned to the capital as a hero, but she refused titles. She asked only to teach. She opened a school near the original mirror tree, where students learned not just science and history, but how to compost, how to mend clothes, how to sit in silence with a friend. One day, a young human girl named Mia came to her, eyes wide. My grandmother said Lisa was real. Not a myth, she was real, Nora said, and so is her lesson. Peace is not a place, it is a practice. Like watering a plant, you do it every day. Even when you do not see the bloom years past, the Union did not become perfect. There were still disagreements, failures, moments of doubt. But now when fear rose, someone would say, "Remember the soil," and they would go outside, dig their hands into the earth and remember they were part of something alive. The mirror trees grew on 100 worlds. Their leaves reflected not faces, but choices. Small acts of kindness, shared meals, hands working together. They did not speak. They simply showed. Celine often visited the original tree. She would sit beneath its branches and read Lisa's words worn soft with time. One passage she loved most. Do not wait for the world to change. Start where you stand. Plant one seed. On her deathbed, Celine called Nora to her side. "Promise me," she said, "the Union will never forget to get its hands dirty." "I promise," Nora said. And so the work continued, not with grand wars or mighty speeches, but with quiet hands in quiet soil. The legacy of Lisa and Vela was not in monuments, but in meals shared, in seeds saved, in the way a child would offer a ripe berry to a stranger with a smile. Long after empires rise and fall, life remains, and life, when tended with care, always finds a way to return. The universe does not need heroes who burn bright and vanish. It needs gardeners who plant, who wait, who believe in green shoots even in the darkest winter. And so they did. Generation after generation. Not because they were perfect, but because they chose every day to try again, to plant again, to hope again. Under the mirror trees across 1,000 worlds, the future grew. Not in steel and fire, but in roots and rain, in patience and love, in the simple, sacred act of caring for what is alive.